You ever have one of those afternoons that starts like any other, and then in one breath, everything anyone ever thought about you is thrown back in your face? 3 sharp lines to hook you. That's all it took for Officer Briggs to turn a parking garage into a stage and for Mr. Ellis to suddenly become the main act in a story he never auditioned for. Stick with me. This is the kind of thing that makes you laugh, then simmer, then boil over. Act 1. The set, the man, the first cut. Mason Ellis is 74 walks like a man who's kept his back straight because life taught him it pays to stand tall, not because he's trying to prove anything. He drives a 1967 Triumph. Not flashy in the newest sense, but honest, the kind of car that smells like leather and long roads. He lives in the top floor of the Harborview Tower, the kind of building with a doorman who knows your name and a parking garage that smells like solvent and polished chrome. That day, he's dressed in a faded silk shirt, purple, if you must know, because he likes color, and because clothes are a small rebellion against getting invisible. The cruiser skids in like it belongs there. It doesn't. Officer Briggs hops out jaw set, eyes hunting for a reason to be large. He doesn't ask. He accuses. You think that fancy shirt makes you fit in here, old man. The words land like cold coins. Mason, calm. As a porch light lowers his window. Hands open, ID out. He's polite, because what else is there to be? Briggs snatches the ID, reads it, then looks at Mason like the facts are an inconvenient hiccup. Where'd you get this, he spits. Stolen fake. You can feel the whole place tilt toward hostility. Mason tells him it's his car, his apartment, his life. He gives his name, his address. The key fob rests in his palm like proof. But Briggs, he's already decided. He's not policing, he's performing. And the audience is a handful of people waiting for elevators, a young guy who has his phone out, recording without knowing how important that recording will be. Briggs grabs Mason, twists his arm, not gentle, not careful, and slams metal on metal. The click of the cuff is loud, surgical final. Act 2. The fight. The choice, the pivot. At the precinct, the lights buzz and everything smells institutional. Coffee gone stale. Disinfectant, fear. Lieutenant Hargrove. The kind of man who learned how to fix a problem with a memo looks at Mason and offers a deal. The classic slippery slope, plead to a misdemeanor, pay a fine, walk out. We'll call it a misunderstanding, he says with a smile that aims to be a bandage. They are offering restitution by way of erasure. Make the bad paperwork vanish by making the truth vanish too. Mason listens, then says no. Not because he wants to drag anyone through hell, he's too tired for that, but because pleading would mean lying about being assaulted, about being stripped of dignity. He will not sign his name to someone else's lie. That refusal is the pivot, because Mason has a different weapon, one that isn't about size or swagger. He has a line on a phone. Now, this is where the scene tilts into the cinema of quiet power. He dials a number, a private line, and a voice answers Chief Dominic Ellis. Not a stranger, not an anonymous suit, but Mason's son, the man who runs the whole department. The clerk across the booking counter hears the name and his face goes from bored to sick, like someone who just realized they swapped a light bulb with a grenade. You can see Briggs' face change, from a snarl to a paper-thin mask. That single phone call is the turn. Briggs and Hargrove scramble trying to rearrange reality like folks cleaning up after a spilled glass. They tell little lies, then bigger ones, and when the precinct screens light up, the footage is already there. Briggs' own body cam, Hargrove's booking video. Everyone watches the sequence they tried to control, the snide joke, the shove, the tightening of steel around wrinkled wrists. It plays, and there is no sound more damning than the recorded breath of the man who has been harmed. Act 3. The Reckoning. The cost, the ripple. Enter Chief Dominic. Not in uniform, but in a suit that fits like authority. He walks into the bullpen like a thunderstorm shorts the power. Everything stops. Nobody jokes. Nobody breathes loud. He sees his father held up at the counter, wrists red and raw, shirt rumpled, pride intact. He does the thing a son should do, but he does it within the law. He doesn't tear the precinct down with rage. He calls for transparency. He plays the footage on the big monitors and he lets the facts do the work. Briggs' act of humiliation becomes his own undoing. Hargrove tries to spin to salvage the narrative, but public evidence is a harsher judge than rumor. Internal affairs move in not as friends but as surgeons, precise and merciless. The badges that once glittered on chests fall like coins from a closed palm. There is a moment you can feel in your bones, a silence where a career dies. The prosecutors do their thing. The trials happen. The word conviction becomes more than a headline. It becomes a sentence, years counted in a cell that smells nothing like authority. Mason. He sits in the courtroom in a sober suit, not to gloat, not to rub salt, but because he wants the ledger to be set straight. He watches the man who twisted his arm and laughs at himself under his breath. Not cruelly, just the kind of smile people make when a bad thing finally has the right word attached to it: accountability. The judge speaks hard truths about trust power and the poison of prejudice. Sentences are handed down, heavier than some expected, lighter than others demanded, but they are not the point anymore. The point is change, after the quiet work. Months later, the precinct is quieter in a good way. The rookies get a new handbook chapter. Ellis's rule. They call it in training now: treat everyone as if they were your chief's father. Treat everyone as if dignity mattered. Mason and Dominic sit on a park bench, 2 coffees sun on their faces. They watch a patrol car roll slowly past. 2 officers inside wave at kids shooting hoops. It's small, but it's the visible after of an invisible repair. So, where's the controversy? Where's the question that keeps you up? Plenty. Did Dominic have an unfair advantage? Maybe. Did Mason's wealth and connections move the gears faster? Sure. But listen, that advantage didn't make him freer to be abused. The real injustice would have been if those badges had never been held to light, if the young man's phone had stayed in his pocket, if Briggs' story had been accepted because it fit a stereotype. The stubborn truth is this evidence matters, and people in power must be accountable. No exceptions. I want you to imagine being Officer Perez, the rookie who watched and didn't step in, terrified of losing his job, scared of the guy he's supposed to call a partner. How would you act if you were him? What would you have done in that parking garage? Because at the end of the day, these stories aren't about the single villain. They are about the quiet decisions everyone makes when they stand next to someone who's doing something wrong. All right, let me leave you with this. I want to know what you think. Was the sentence too harsh or not enough? Is it okay for someone's name and influence to change the scale of justice when that same influence also helps expose the wrong? How do we train rookies not to freeze when a badge is used as a weapon? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us a time you saw something ugly and chose to speak up, or why you didn't. If this hit you, hit the like button, subscribe for more stories that make you uncomfortable and honest, and share this with someone who thinks justice is simple. It isn't. But talking about it is how we make it better.